Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends, and welcome to another oddly specific romance recommendation. So this is a video I've kind of done in like different aspects before, like I've had some of these recs in other videos around this, but a while ago, it's been a little while now because I'm super slow at getting to stuff. And my hair hates me today. What is this floof we have? I had put a question box in my Instagram to see if people had suggestions for videos they wanted to see. And then of course I always have a video recommendation form, which is linked down below, where people can suggest tropes that they want me to do or the type of stories that they want to see. So in my Instagram box, Big Sis, Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life had suggested that I do a wilderness/wild man recommendation. And then one of my viewers in the viewer recommendation form, the video recommendation form, suggested something similar. And so that was Megan T. So for Crystal and Megan today, we are going to be doing wilderness/wild man recommendations, and I'll find out something to label this one. But basically I took the scenarios of like mountain men, really rugged men, men in secluded places. So there's going to be some survival romances, there's going to be some on the mountain romances, and even a couple that are just like kind of small town scenarios. There's even a time traveling one included. So we are going to go through those. And the first one I'm going to start with, and I'm actually wearing flannel in honor of him, and that is Soft Flannel Hank by Eliza MacArthur. So I just recently read this. This was also a suggestion from Crystal, and I thought that I should put it in here because he's not completely a wild man, but I definitely would put him on the lumber sexual scale. He has like man bun going on and like wears flannel all the time and is in this small town, and he's just very like, oh, gotta roll. I feel like he's someone who would be able to like live off the land type of thing, he just has that vibe. So I'm starting this off with him because I want to. It doesn't quite fit perfectly into this, but it works for me. And the couple in this book do spend some time in a secluded mountain cabin together, hiding out. So we'll go with that. But yeah, Hank is just making it day to day. He is a pretty lonely guy living in his small town. He has a few friends. He's an ex-police officer, but he's really kind of just getting by up there. And then our heroine comes into town and she's on the run, and she's also a witch who's on the run from a vampire. Yes, this is a paranormal story, and yes, Hank may or may not very strongly represent Charlie from Twilight. You will get it when you read it. You will see it. His name is Hank Dove. You get it? Instead of Charlie Swan. It's all there, okay? Many, many more connections are included as well. But Hank is very lonely. He has so much love inside him. He's just looking for a person to give it to, but he has continually been left by people. And so no one has ever picked Hank. No one has ever chosen him. And yeah, but yet somehow he's still not jaded, but he is very like self-depreciating. He doesn't have a lot of confidence. He's very shy, even though he's this sexy, strong, big man. If you never have anybody choose you, you're not going to believe that you are those things, right? So yeah, I loved this book so much and I highly recommend. And again, I just wanted to start this video off with it. Some of these will fit a lot better as we go, but I just enjoyed this one so much. Oh, my voice is going. We can't have that. Okay, and to continue. So this is a very interesting one, but I was like, this would fit so well. So this is The Wolf and the Wildflower by Stacy Reed. And this one also has someone who like lives in town, but for the last 10 years of his life, this Duke of Wolverton, James Winters, lived in the wilderness in the Yukon. He had been left behind or like gotten lost out there, and he literally lived in the wilderness, and he gets rescued and gets brought back home. Is it only is it 10 years? Is it longer than that? Now I can't remember. I think it's 10 years. And he's been there a very long time. And so he has survival on the mind. And so when he gets brought back home, he gets brought back to his family, his mother is very worried that the person who's been the heir presumptive now that he's been gone wants to, you know, keep what he has had since he's been gone, and wants to have him declared insane because he ain't acting real normal to the people of the ton and the people of, you know, what year are we in this one? I can't remember. Let's see if she says. 1880s. Yeah, the 1880s. You know, so he seems very strange to them, and he likes to go barefoot now. He doesn't like having this many clothes on all the time. So, you know, kind of think like if you've seen the Tarzan with Alexander Skarsgård, like when he's back in London society and just doesn't fit, like that's what I picture that he's like, right? And then our heroine, her name is Jules, and she is actually disguised as a man. She's lived her whole life as a man because of a lie that her mother told, which, you know, the story doesn't always hold together perfectly, we'll say that, but it's Stacey Reed and I love it anyway. But anyway, and she is working in psychology with her father, and her father get asked to, you know, like examine and, you know, figure out what's going on with James. I don't know a better way to say it. And immediately, which just makes this bonkers, James can like sense that Jules is a woman. He can just immediately, like almost scent it on the wind that she's a woman. And he just has this ferocious, primal aspect to him that is very interesting to see among the British aristocracy. And, you know, he wants to be there for his family, but he also just feels so constrained by society now. It's going to be very difficult for him to decide to stay there. And then as he and Jules are falling more and more in love, how are they going to be able to stay together if she's a man? Like, how are they going to be together, right? So yeah, there's one that I think is a unique one to fit into the wild man aspect of this one. Okay, then I actually just reread Demon from the Dark by Kresley Cole, and I feel like this one also fits very well. This one has some survivalist aspects to it, and it definitely has a wild man. So this is Malcolm Slane, and he is a Veman. So he's half vampire, half demon, and he's living on this like hell plane. And he is the king of his mountain. He kills anyone who comes there, and he rules viciously. He's had horrible things done to him, including he was used as a blood slave and like a sex slave when he was young, and then he was turned into a vampire, and he hates that part of himself. So there's just a lot going on with Slane. He's not perfectly sane, we'll just say that. And then we have Caro Gray, who she has been taken captive along with a bunch of other supernaturals. They're being kept on this island. They're being experimented on and tortured. It's awful. And she gets offered a deal that if she goes to this demon plane and convinces Malcolm to come back with her, then they will free her and her, I think it's like her niece or like her cousin's daughter. I can't remember how they're related, but like she has a little girl that she is her guardian, and they've both been captured. So they promise to let her go. She has no idea if they will, but she also doesn't have a choice. So there we go. And yeah, and as soon as Malcolm gets a scent of her, he knows that she's his mate. And so there's a language barrier. They don't speak the same language. He's lost all of the English that he knew. He also, like, the vampires, I think, do they speak English? I can't remember, but there's a language that, like, he's let himself forget how to speak it because he hasn't spoken it in so long. And he just wants to take her as his mate. And she, without being able to speak with him, needs to try to convince him to get back where the portal is going to be. So, lots of cross purposes on here, lots of dangerous situations, lots of miscommunication and stuff like that. And then also, then we have the side of it where, like, you know, she's bringing him back to betray him, you know, and she may have a good reason, but is he gonna care about that, you know? So, highly recommend. I mean, I would say most of the men in Kresley Cole's series are wild men, so there's also, you know, that as well. A Hunger Like No Other, we could say Lachlan was a wild man too. Okay, then this is another series that the whole series, I would consider them wild men as well. But you know what? I wanted to share this cover because I love it so much. So there is the Naga Bride series by Naomi Lucas. This is Boomslang. It's book 5. The first one is Viper. And so there's this planet where the Naga have taken over part of it. And then there is this, there's a pretty map in this one and everything. And then there are these humans who have come down on a spaceship to do tests and scout there and everything. And pretty soon after they get there, the Naga all start coming for the women there because they smell them and they want to mate with them and make snake babies with them, okay? And that has happened in the previous books. And our heroine now, knows about this, but she doesn't think that anyone will try to come for her because she can't have any more children, I believe, is what it is. And so, but he wants her anyway, so he goes to find her. He rescues her from some other ones, and he wants to take her. And I mean, she's willing to go with him to a certain, but she's also you're not gonna get from me what you want because I can't have any more kids because she's had something done where she can't. So she's like, are you sure that I'm the one that you want, type of thing. And he's like, yes, I'm very sure you're the one that I want. What are you talking about, you crazy woman? So there's that aspect to it, right? So anyway, yeah, he's definitely a very wild man. And I like this one too because she is an older woman. I think she's in her late 40s, early 50s. I can't remember that. But so it's kind of like a reverse age gap scenario, if you can really see that in an alien romance. But it definitely feels that way. He definitely feels young and optimistic, kind of, compared to she's a little more jaded and has seen a lot of things being I believe she was a doctor on the ship. So yeah. I really recommend this whole series. Definitely has a lot of the survival and kidnapped by aliens vibes going on for you. It's there. It's there. All right, then we have The Lone Wolf's Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. And I am specifically picking this one. You, of course, could start with the Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate if you want to. And I mean, you should for the series. But The Lone Wolf's Rejected Mate definitely fits into the wild man aspect of this. But again, I mean, all the werewolves kind of do. But specifically, this hero, he knows who his mate is. But he's much older than her. And he also is partly feral. So he kind of sort of belongs to a pack, and he will bring them food sometimes. He'll talk with the alpha sometimes, but his wolf, when he goes into wolf form, is number 1, very large, and number 2, cannot be reasoned with at all. Usually the wolves, they still have a sense of themselves, and he doesn't. It's a little bit like a personality disorder if we wanted to dive deep into it, because his wolf became that way due to trauma that happened to him. And so his wolf became like this as a defense mechanism. But he feels like he could never be with his mate. He thinks his wolf would kill her. He'd always be afraid that in his dreams he would hurt her. So he's stayed away. But in doing that, he's really punishing his mate as well. Because if you read these, when a woman goes through her heat in here, it's very uncomfortable and not good. And if she doesn't have her mate to ease her, it's agony for her. But he wants to protect her, so he hasn't really come around. And yeah, and as always in these Kate C. Wells books, these women somehow are treated horribly by everyone. I don't understand the pack dynamics in this still. I don't get why they have to be so horrible. Why does everyone have to be so horrible? And it's clear to us that she would be so much better off if she was with her mate, if he would just get over himself and believe that her wolf could hit her, that they could be meant for each other, right? So yeah, but this is my favorite in the series, The Lone Wolf's Rejected Mate. It's my favorite of all of them. I wasn't a huge fan of the first one, and the second one was okay. The heir apparent's rejected mate or something, and his curvy rejected mate, that one hurt me personally a lot. But this one is my favorite, so I recommend for sure. All right, then there is also Haven by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is the first book in the Beards and Bondage series. These are all pretty short books. Honestly, you could binge them all in a day. That's what I did the first time. But this one specifically has our hero who's living on his own. I think he has a dog, just him and his dog. I'm going to say he has a dog, we'll say that. And he has a cabin, he keeps to himself. He's a good ways away from town. When he like hears a commotion happening, and a woman who you can tell has been like beaten and tied up, like comes running for his house, and he comes out with his gun, and there's someone chasing her, like with a knife or whatever he's chasing her with, and so he kills the guy. And she ends up explaining to him that I believe she's with her brother, and they were hiking, and they got attacked, and her brother was killed, and he rescued her, basically. So yeah, so it starts off with him rescuing her, and then, you know, he has to take care of her for a little while before he can bring her back to civilization. And then what is interesting in this story for me is that once she gets back home, she just wants to get back to life, but like so much has changed and so much happened to her that she doesn't feel like she fits anymore. So she wants to go back and see this man again and see what it is that's drawing her back to him. And I really like that a lot. And all of these books have some form of BDSM in it. You should get that from the title. And it's one of those that there's a little bit of BDSM as healing happening because she has so much trauma that she wants to move past. Okay, next, this one has to come up pretty much anytime I talk about a wild man or a crazy man going on. We have Love in the Wild by Emma Castle. This is a Tarzan retelling, and it's beautiful. I love it so much. We have a virgin hero because he's been living with apes, and we have our heroine who is a photographer, and when she is on a like trip to take photos there, her group gets attacked by poachers, and she ends up getting rescued by this wild man who takes her to his like cave, and wow, just thinks she's so beautiful and is so attracted to her, and she kind of pieces together through some information that she finds and things that his parents had like crash landed there and like died, and then he was left, and he was raised by the wild, you know, that's how it goes. So his name is Thorn, I believe is what he's called. But yeah, and our heroine, when she like figures out who he is, like that happens throughout the story, she wants to bring him home, and he isn't sure if being in civilization is something that he even really wants, so we have to see that. But I love this one. It's so good. The audiobook, Shane East does the Thorn role, so I think you'll enjoy this quite a bit. Then we have another survival one. This is a desert island one, kind of. Maybe not even a desert, a jungle island. This is Surviving Rain by Shay Savage. I love this. This is one that actually got signed at Book Bonanza. But this one has our captain of a schooner whose name is Sebastian Stark. And so he's a very grumpy, jaded captain, and so on his schooner he has Rain with him, and I can't remember where she's traveling to or what's going on. I can't remember why, but anyway, they're both on this boat, and it ends up capsizing, and they are the only two who survive, and they end up in the life raft. So they're surviving on the life raft, and then they end up on an island, and they're stuck there. And they might not be the only ones on this island, so it might not be as deserted as they think, but it's just very interesting too, because they're two that like they got off on such the wrong foot, because he isn't necessarily nice to her, even though she's a captain or she's a passenger on his boat. He doesn't usually, I think, do passengers, but like they'll take a couple passengers for extra money or whatever. And I mean, he thought that she was pretty or whatever, but he's like, nothing's gonna happen. But yeah, now they end up being stuck together, and they have to survive. And I really do like how quickly the hero's like protective instincts and his like will to survive get into him. And that's why I feel like this one really fits this, because our hero, I feel like in ways was always like made for stuff like this, you know? So yeah, this is the first one. There is also a follow-up book to this one that's called Bastion Storm. So you get to see more of their story as well if you want to do that. But yeah, this is one I haven't, like, I don't think I've had this in a video since I got the book, so wanted to do that. Shay Savage is also the one who wrote Transcendence, which I didn't put in this one because it's usually in mine like this, so I kept it out this time. I wanted to share Surviving Rain, but Transcendence is the caveman one that I really love. Then there is, this one is so unique in my opinion. This is Wild North by J.B. Salisbury, and this is the first book in the North Brothers series, and it's interesting because most of these books don't take place in the wilderness, and this one though does for a good chunk of the book. So our heroine, who, wow, it's been a long time since I read this one, let me see, Jordan, she is on a trip with her boyfriend and her friend, and while they're on this camping trip, she discovers her boyfriend cheating with her. Which, I mean, can you imagine the fucking gall that you're on a trip with your girlfriend and your girlfriend's friend and you're gonna cheat, but you like do it with her there when she has nowhere to go because like you guys are in the wilderness together. Well, she ends up kind of running off, and she doesn't like mean to get lost. She just wants to get away from seeing them fucking each other, and she ends up falling down and like I think she breaks her leg or hurt something really bad, and then Alexander ends up finding her, and he is pretty miffed that she is encroaching on his secluded time, because let's just say like this is his escape. He is in this cabin for a specific amount of time. He comes to get away from everything. And yeah, so when he finds her, he's like, I'm not gonna be able to carry you out of here. You're gonna need to stay here until, I can't remember like what they're staying there for, but he knows that like he's gonna be going home in a certain amount of time, and there's someone who's gonna come and get him at a specific date. So he's like, we're gonna need to make it until then because I can't take you out of here. It would be too difficult. So yeah, so again, the good chunk of this book is them stuck in this cabin then. Things, of course, eventually turn sexual. And then there's a pretty big, like, reveal that happens in this. And then the second half of the book is dealing with that. So I'll be vague about it, but again, they're not in the wilderness the whole time. But what is cool about Alexander is, like, he definitely keeps some of that about him, some of that wildness in him, even when we're no longer in the wilderness. And I think that's what also fits it, you know, like the wolf and the wildflower, like when that wildness is just like in them. That's how I feel about Hank a little bit too. Again, I might have stretched to get that one in here, but I don't care. Okay, then there is just Wild by Adrienne Wilder. This is another one I put in this type of video quite a lot. This is an MM romance. Actually, both of these last two I'm going to share are. So this one is a hero is on a plane, a small plane. He is, I think he's a model slash like actor, and him and his partner, as well as like some other people who are part of this production, are on a small chartered plane, and their plane goes down in, I think we're in the Canadian wilderness. I'm not sure. It's either Alaska or Canada. And he survives this, but it's horrible, right? If a plane fell out of the sky, it'd be awful. And our other hero is actually someone who is hiding in the wilderness for reasons. So he has a cabin there, and he hasn't been around people in a long time. But this beautiful man just dropped out of the sky. He's in a lot of pain. He has broken bones, obviously, a concussion, possibly internal bleeding. We don't know. But it's the middle of winter, and our hero, who is, you know, in the wild here, he has no way to get him to civilization until it melts and he can take him out. Like, there's no chance of him getting out. So they have to live together in this cabin for the winter. And even when the winter's over, our one hero just might not want to let him go back to civilization. He might want him to stay with him. So there's that. This one, I remember, like, it almost has a thriller aspect to it. If they both didn't like end up loving each other so much, it might feel like that, but no, I liked it a lot. And then the last one I want to mention is one that a patron picked for me. I actually annotated this for a patron, and I would have never tried this book if they hadn't suggested it to me. It just wouldn't have come across my radar at all. And I'm so glad it did, even though it's very quirky and a little bit strange. But this one is called Honey from the Lion by Jackie North. And this is another MM romance, like I said, and this is also a time travel romance. And does the time travel make a lick of damn sense? No. No, it does not. But do we care? I don't really care so much. So our one hero is going to this dude ranch for a trip. Like, there's this place where you can go and pretend to be a cowboy for a while, and, you know, there's like group activities, and there's riding horses and ranching, and it's, you know, get you in touch with your wild side, right? And our hero goes to this, and he ends up time traveling to the same place, but like in the 18 whenever. So he goes back like 200 years or something like that. And he's still in the same place, but now there's not a ranch there. There's just a cabin where a railroad, like, he works for the railroad, lives and works at this place there. I think he's a surveyor. Is he a railroad surveyor? Yeah, I think that's what it is. And he rescues him and brings him in, and he's going to try to take him into town and help him, you know, find his way back. But it becomes clear that this is the surveyor's cabin that our hero had heard about. Like, he had seen it when he was in present time, and now we're really there. And so all these people he'd heard about during like the history lesson of the place, he's seeing them, and it's fascinating. Like, it's pretty cool. It's cool. But the thing is too, is that our hero who's living in this cabin, he's not gay. Obviously, he's never been with a man before, but he starts to have the feels for the man that he rescued. And the man that he rescued, he already was gay, but he doesn't quite understand how like dangerous this is in the time that he's in now. So that is a part that, like, the conflict, you know, it makes you sad when you see it, but their love for each other is so strong that it, you know, they find a way to make it work, right? They do. So it was a really beautiful story. I definitely teared up a few times in this one, and I was like, this better be a romance. Like, this is a romance, right? Because I was worried up until right at the end, but it was. So yeah, those are my books that I recommend for wilderness/wild man recommendations. I know that this one isn't as like linear as I normally would do, but I just wanted to try something a little different with this rec. So definitely check these out. I'll have links down below so you can buy any of these books if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.